Hey there folks, welcome back, and today I'm going to be talking about some Formula 1 news. Now of course we're in the summer break at the moment for F1, and at this point is where you start to see the silly season stuff. It's been about a year now since we found out that Daniel Ricciardo was going to be leaving Red Bull to be going to Renault. However, what we didn't expect was to see a massive shake-up in the Red Bull pecking order, as Pierre Gasly has been dropped from the main Red Bull team to be replaced by Alexander Albon. Pierre will return to Toro Rosso. It's something that we didn't expect, not necessarily because of Pierre's pace. Pierre has been underperforming compared to Max Verstappen over the course of this season so far. But because even as recently as the Hungarian Grand Prix race weekend, we heard their intention was to keep Pierre Gasly until the end of the season. But now apparently with Albon he's going to be getting these final, 9 rounds as a kind of test to see whether or not he'd be worth keeping in the team for 2020. What I want to talk about in this video are 3 points. 1, the ramifications for Gasly. 2, the ramifications for Albon. And 3, other drivers like Daniel Kvyat. So let's talk about Pierre Gasly. Now he had a really good first full season last season. Teammates with Brendan Hartley. And he managed to get some fantastic drives, including 4th place in Bahrain. However, this season hasn't exactly gone according to plan for him. And to say that it's not gone according to plan is putting it lightly. From a crash in P-event testing to running behind Max in most of the races due to complications involving what he believed was a setup. His best finish was 4th, and it was something that he managed to accumulate at, say, the British Grand Prix, which, depending on how you interpret it, came as a result of the crash that Verstappen and Vettel had. So you might say that it's just luck that he ended up getting it. I say Pierre's got talent, and it's a massive shame that he's been dropped. I think he'd be able to show what he's got in the remainder of the season, so for example in Suzuka. However, for Albon, it's a brilliant opportunity. Even though he's a rookie, he's someone who's been a Red Bull kind of junior driver before getting let go from the junior program as he was going through the Formula 2 ranks. He was about to start Formula E in their current season that's, well, just wrapped up. But instead, he managed to get signed to Toro Rosso for this season, starting in Formula 1. And that caused a whole lot of hassle. But he's done brilliantly this season. He's been consistently a solid driver, and the drive in China that he had was one that, well, almost beggars belief. And I guess that's what Red Bull are looking for. I don't know who it was that made the call, and to be honest, I don't know if we are going to particularly find out. But it looks more likely that it was someone like Helmut Marko, compared to it being Christian Horner. But then you've got to ask why it was that Albon got the call up and not someone like Daniel Kvyat. Kvyat has had some good pace over the course of the season. However, you wouldn't say that he's exactly been the better of the two drivers. Whilst he is higher up in terms of the driver standings, a lot of that comes from the 3rd place he picked up at Hockenheim. And you can't really owe that down to pure skill. That was due to a strategic win for Toro Rosso, as well as the high attrition rate and the uncertainties that the German Grand Prix brought with it. I mean, for example, Lance Stroll was leading the race, but you wouldn't be hailing him as, say, the next Jacques Villeneuve. Or maybe you would, but I disagree with you on that. Kvyat has shown some potential. Of course, he was in Red Bull over the course of 2015 and the early part of 2016 before he was dropped and replaced with Max Verstappen. But do I think that Red Bull are likely to give him another chance? Well, potentially. You might see that Kvyat, for example, might get the drive for 2020 if he still performs better than Gasly over the rest of the season, and if Albon doesn't have a particularly great time in Red Bull. But most of this is them trying to evaluate who will partner Max Verstappen, and at the end of the day that depends on what the powers that be at Red Bull want. Do they want someone who's going to be able to compete with Verstappen and potentially get a couple of wins and podiums and compete with him, but maybe a bit too harshly, and they want to favour their team standings? Or do they settle down and say that Max is the number 1 driver and look for someone who will be able to play the supporting role but also won't be too fast if asked to move out the way? That's a question that we need to wait to see the results of, because we don't know what exactly Albon's position will be within Red Bull, but we can pretty much presume there will be second driver to Max. What might be a slight curveball, and I'd find this interesting, is if Red Bull was deciding to implement the second driver position on a rotation basis. So they'd have, say, Albon doing most of the races, but say for the Russian Grand Prix they put Kvyat in the main car. For the Japanese Grand Prix, because he's had experience from Super Formula, put Pierre in the Red Bull car. That would be quite an interesting thing to see. It would be properly utilised in the B team and showing which drivers they have with what kind of talent, and being a proper showcase for the kind of talent that they have within the team. It'd be something similar to, say, in the WRC, where you see Sebastian Loeb and Danny Sordo ended up playing a supporting role for someone like Thierry Neuville. Or Andreas Mikkelsen in some cases also playing that kind of supporting role, as Hyundai looked to prioritise the Constructors' Championship but also realised they got somebody in the fight for the Drivers' Championship. It would be interesting to see, and it's something that I've said could happen in F1 for a while now. But I don't know if the idea of drivers missing rounds it will work for the team, because they still sign people for the whole season. They don't sign people to do 5 or 6 rounds. Could be something they do in the future though, mind you. And would that be something you'd want to see in F1? Just let me know in the comments down below. We can have a bit of a debate going over whether you think this would be a good idea, whether you think it would be a bad idea, and also around the Red Bull replacement, whether or not it was a good idea for them to replace Gasly, and whether or not they should have gone with Albon or Kvyat, or maybe somebody entirely different. Apart from that, thank you so much for watching. Hope to see you again soon. Bye bye for now.